Welcome back to r/legal advice, where people ask questions, get advice, and we get satisfaction. If you haven't already, please don't forget to check out my. Without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. And the first one is titled, "I will see you in court, even if you are the only manager." Several months ago, a law student who lived several hours away, but still in the state of Kentucky, stayed in the hotel. Upon signing in, she signed sign-in paperwork stating, quite clearly, that she would not smoke in her room and that if she did smoke in her room, her credit card would be charged $200. When she signed out a couple days later, the room reeked of smoke. 3 staff members and the manager went in to observe the room, take pictures, smoke damage, cigarette butts, etc., and attest that the room smelled specifically of cigarette smoke. Cleaning staff also attest that the room the person who she should have sued, he is the primary manager of that particular hotel building. Number 2, should he file for a change in venue? If so, he can do this 6 hours and would rather not. Number 3, based on the information provided, does his case seem legally sound? Can the plaintiff be forced to abide by the paperwork she signed, saying she would pay $200? Number 4, how does he get a copy of the actual complaint? In the state of Kentucky, you normally have about 20 days to respond, and apparently if you don't, a default judgment can be filed against you. He is willing to fight this and keeps impeccable records. Number 5, shouldn't the law student know better? Filing frivolous lawsuits and getting caught lying to the court is not the best of ideas, especially when you want to get a bar card at some point down the line. Are there any sanctions that can be put on her now or in the future for this action? And a user in the comments said he should contact his corporate legal department, they should deal with it, which might involve hiring an outside attorney to represent your friend, and what is likely to happen is that an actual attorney will contact this law student and tell her that this is not really something that she wants to put on her bar application. Alternatively, they may get in touch with the Dean of Student Affairs at her law school, who should tell the student the same thing. In any case, this was not a particularly smart law student. First, it sounds like he was sued personally instead of the hotel being sued. That by itself should be grounds to have the suit dismissed. Number 2, it seems like he was improperly served. Typically, service of process requires both the subpoena and complaint to be served. If the clerk forwarded the summons, the complaint should have been included. Number 3, she filed in the wrong county. In Kentucky, small claims filings happen where the defendant is. You know guys, I am definitely not the oldest Reddit reader here on YouTube, although I am probably one of the older ones. However, it seems like the last time you could really smoke in a hotel or in any public spaces like restaurants was like 20 or 30 or 40 years ago. But I suppose all the smoking bans probably came into effect around 10 to 15 years ago, at least in my country. When was smoking banned in most public spaces in your country? Let us know in the comments. And the next one is an update to the court story. In the previous thread, a lot of very good advice was given. The general consensus was that he should file for a change of venue, have it moved to his city, where the hotel is, and report her to the bar and her law school for sanctions, as she filed a very frivolous case in the first place and knowingly in the wrong venue. After talking to my friend today, his update was pretty simple but disappointing. He did not show up, just didn't go. Default judgment was found against the hotel for about $400. He had tried to get a change of venue, but doing so apparently means that you have to drive to the incorrect venue, ask them to change the venue, and then hope that it gets changed. Since small claims cases don't last more than a day, it would have cost him the same time and gas to file for a change of venue as it would to just go there for the court date. According to my friend, he decided that it was not worth being gone from the hotel for a full day, as he had recently fired his assistant and did not have anyone competent capable of covering for the full day, 10 to 12 hours for the ordeal. He would be gone. Doing so would mean paying an employee overtime, shuffling shifts, costing a ton of gas money, costing a day's worth of his wages. The hotel would have to pay him to make the trip and still pay someone else 1.5 times the normal pay to sit in the office, so instead they just skipped it. He states to me that since it is up to her to collect, the hotel is just going to not pay it in regards to the judgment. I have informed him that she could conceivably show up with moving trucks and start taking computers, chairs, tables and unruly guests, well, maybe not guests, to satisfy the value of the judgment. Hope he will listen to reason. I know you guys love updates and I wish I had a happier one to give. This was a slam dunk case for him, but instead this law student got exactly what she wanted. She manipulated the law to her benefit, knowing she would win by making it enough of a hassle to fight the case. To be honest guys, this woman seems more like a con artist than a law student. Either way, someone in the comments said he can still report her to the law school and while he's at it to the bar association. Being a shithead should have consequences. And the next person said, just beware, if she's willing to file a $400 lawsuit over smoking in a hotel room, she might also be willing to file a slander lawsuit, probably baseless, yes, but that did not stop her before. It also doesn't help that she won the case and has a judgment in her favor. Either way, if you have watched until here, please don't forget to post some star emojis in the comments and also like the video, and it would be absolutely amazing if we could reach 1000 likes. Thank you very much in advance, and now let's continue. And the next one is titled, Colorado, neighbor called the cops because we have weeds. Yes, oh yes, she called the cops because we have weeds, and no, not those kind of weeds that you associate with Colorado. We live outside of Boulder. We bought a house last summer that had been a rental, mostly for college students, so you can imagine the state of the place. My dad owns a general contracting business and he's been helping us gut the inside and renovate the place. Needless to say, the yard is also in a total state of disrepair. It is mostly filled with Canada thistle and myrtle spurge. They are absolutely impossible to get rid of, so we are thinking we will dig up most of the lawn, nuke it, put down weed cloth and cover with fresh dirt, tarp it for a year and then start from scratch. The problem is, in Colorado, it is illegal to cultivate myrtle spurge. Cultivation includes allowing the plant to produce seed. Because we plan to just dig up the whole yard, we have not done anything about the weeds. Myrtle spurge also produces this toxic sap, so you have to be careful about removing it. Hence, we have just left it. We did try to spray it repeatedly with Roundup, but that did nothing. A few of the smaller plants wilted a bit, but nothing is dead. In comes Betty, our neighbor. Betty is in her 90s and probably got to this age by stealing candy from small children and feasting on their tears. She's been complaining at us for everything: the weeds, the fence that is falling apart, the work crew that we dare to park in front of our house, that we installed a new mailbox. We installed one of those cheap plastic ones for the time being because the old one was completely rusted through. So yes, I intensely dislike Betty. Every time I see her shoveling over, I know it is going to be another tirade. I would think she would be happy that we bought the house and are improving it, but I think she enjoys making other people miserable too much. She is also smart that she only shuffles over when we are outside and then stands at our fence and complains until we just ignore her and go inside. Even my dad, the nicest man on the planet, cannot stand Betty. My 5-year-old niece usually serves as the lookout and warns us when Superstorm Betty approaches us, so we can lock ourselves inside and pretend we don't hear Betty knocking. Anyway, last week she decides to start calling the cops. They came out twice last week. The first time they gave us a flyer about the myrtle spurge, and the second time just a "hey, you should really take care of that," and asked us to keep it down. We were putting on new siding in the middle of the day on Saturday, apparently a noise violation according to Betty. We explained the yard situation and they seemed quite amenable to it, us leaving the yard mostly alone until next year, although the second time the officer suggested we tarp it up for the time being. Today, Betty called the cops on us again. I took the day off from work to be here to receive our appliances, and she called the cops for the weeds and because the appliance truck blocked her driveway. They did for the time of delivery at 8 AM until they finished delivering at about 8:25 AM. Betty does not drive. If she has to go somewhere, her sons or their wives pick her up, and usually in front of her house, not on the driveway. This police officer was not so nice, although I guess I would be pissed too if my job included going to someone's house to yell at them about weeds. He told me to get a tarp on my front lawn right away and that he would be back by lunchtime to check up on me. He made me feel like a naughty child, and yes, that is part of the reason I am angry and posting here. I did go to Home Depot and got tarps and put them on the front yard. My question to you all is, can I do anything to stop her from calling the cops on me? I am afraid of any minor infraction against the law, even unwittingly as with the weeds, and Betty is going to call the police on me. Can I get a cease and desist order? Does it cross over into harassment at any point, or is this just what owning a house is like? Here is the relevant law from one of the pamphlets I got from the police. The Colorado Noxious Weed Act designates myrtle spurge as a Class A noxious weed that must be eradicated. It is a violation of this law to allow myrtle spurge to produce seed or develop other reproductive propagules. To read the complete act, visit blah blah blah. Property owners are required to eliminate this weed from their properties. And a user in the comments said, surprisingly, no, it is not harassment for calling the police on you for violating the law. You have the weed that has to be moved and the movers were blocking her driveway. Those are violations regardless of whether she drives or not. And another person said, as someone who gardens a lot, I would probably be calling on you too if you were letting that get to seed too. It is not just affecting you, it is affecting all of your neighbors. Use a weed whacker and weed whack it before it gets to flowering height while you are waiting to get the rest of your yard in order. I get that you are renovating and that is no time to upgrade your yard, but letting it go to seed is truly just screwing yourself over in the long run along with your neighbors. And guys, I'm wondering, what side are you on in this story? Do you think that the OP is actually in the wrong here? Let us know your opinion in the comments. And the next one is an update to the garden drama. I kind of feel like I should give you guys an update on the happenings because I know everyone wants an ending. On the day I posted, I stopped responding because the cops showed up at my house. Betty, the neighbor, called the cops on the guys taking down the fence. The cop was one who had been to our house before and was visibly agitated as soon as he got out of his car. Apparently Betty had called them and said someone was vandalizing my house. I explained to the cop that the guys worked for my dad and that we were taking the fence down because we didn't want to have the police called on us for the fence. Betty came out of the house and started yelling from her property line. There is a walking path that runs between our houses, that it was vandalism and she did not want to look at my ugly yard. Truth be told, I agreed with her, my yard is pretty terrible, though these days everything is tarped over, so it is a controlled terrible rather than a chaotic terrible. Anyway, I assured her they were not vandals, then she accused them of being illegals and told the cop to check their paperwork because they are illegals. The cop is clearly frustrated when he turns back to me and the work guys. I honestly don't fully remember how it came up, if it was one of the guys or Betty, but the fact that Betty had the same fence as us came up and the cop did tell her that she is warned that the fence is not to regulation and Betty should take care to fix it. I swear she looked like she was having a stroke when the cop dared comment on her property. At some point my dad arrives and smoothed things over with the cop who told me and Betty that the police are here to protect and serve, not to settle minor disputes between neighbors and so on. I feel for him, I really do. Anyway, Mother's Day was sometime around there and we were out of town visiting the in-laws, but my dad decided to head over to our house and offer Betty to take the fence down for free. Well, when he got to the house, our driveway was completely blocked by two huge trucks, so he knows the sons are there and they are not happy. When he knocks on the door, one of the sons eventually opens the door and my dad, trying to be friendly, offers to take the fence down and the son apparently called him an incorrect racial slur and slammed the door in his face. Another week or two go by and I have some girlfriends over in my crappy backyard, and granted, we were quite inebriated and probably being a little too loud. It is like 9 PM on a Friday night, and instead of calling the cops, Betty calls her son, who walks into my backyard and starts telling us all off. There is no excuse, but I escalated the situation and it ended up with me telling him to get off my damn property and him calling me another incorrect racial slur. My husband called the cops this time, but the son was gone by the time they came. The good news is that my husband finally finished cleaning out the garage because he did not want me walking from my car to the house. So yay on that front. Anyway, all that and then we find out Betty is selling the house. They are showing it and everything, so hopefully in another month or so we will have a whole new crappy neighbor to deal with. I know this is not a nice clean-cut resolution, but many of you gave me very thoughtful feedback that I appreciated, so I wanted to share the happenings. So guys, at least for me personally, after hearing this resolution, I would say that Betty the neighbor was definitely a psycho, although OP was not completely innocent, let's just admit that. In addition, I would just like to remind you, if you're already subscribed to my channel but sometimes you may not get some of the notifications for new videos, I would suggest to click the bell icon to not miss any of my uploads. And the next one is titled, Kansas, Friend Sued for $29,000 plus costs for selling a faulty printer. A friend of mine sold a used printer via Amazon.com to a woman in Washington state. 3 months later, the lady who purchased the printer contacted him demanding a refund, stating that the printer is defective and that it had never worked. This is past Amazon's 30-day return policy, so he says no. She then sends him a message in which she again demands a refund and then claims to be a third-year law student at X law school and threatens a lawsuit if he does not comply within 7 days. He says that he did not respond to the message. Roughly 2 weeks later he is served at work with notice of a lawsuit. She is suing for the cost of the printer plus tuition to law school, a little over $29,000, claiming that the defective printer had caused her to fail classes and that she would have to repeat the year. I guess that using another printer was not an option. He calls Amazon to see if they provide any seller protection in a case like this. Amazon says that they will look into it for him. Amazon sends a rep from Geek Squad to the woman's dorm to check out the printer. The dorm is at the law school she claimed to be at. GS rep finds that the printer had needed 3 out of 5 ink tanks replaced and that the woman had somehow installed ink tanks from 2 different incompatible systems. She had receipts from Best Buy for the ink tanks and claimed that BB reps had told her that these were the correct ink tanks for her printer. The GS rep was able to extract the 3 ink tanks, there was no damage from them being forced into the printer, and installed the correct ink tanks. The GS rep verified that the printer is now working perfectly. He also pulled the printer history from her computer and noted that she had been using the printer for the 3 months until the ink tanks needed to be replaced. So what does my friend need to do at this point? It has been a little over a week since Geek Squad did their thing and he has not heard anything from the woman. She filed the lawsuit herself with a court in Kansas. I am guessing that the plus costs part is her travel expenses too, and from Kansas. Amazon paid for the Geek Squad visit and the 3 ink tanks and stated that they will not be billing my friend for any of this. He will have to take a day off of work to travel to appear in court, as it is a 3-hour drive each way. I imagine that the judge will dismiss the suit. However, I think that my friend should send all of this to the woman's college and let them know what one of their students has been doing. Others think that he should file a countersuit. Thoughts? So guys, interestingly enough, we have once again another case of a con artist law school student, so I'm curious, what would you do in this situation? Let us know in the comments. So the next one is the update to the story. I have a bit of an update. Amazon Legal sent the girl a letter about her intentions. We RT the lawsuit. She has indicated that it will be dropped and my friend should receive notice of this shortly. He does not know what was in the letter. I asked if he could get a copy for me to redact and post here. Amazon sent her a bill for the Geek Squad visit and the new ink tanks. I related what many of you said and asked if he will be filing complaints. He has no intention to, he just wants the lawsuit to go away. I will keep trying to talk him into filing complaints, but doubt he will. This should be an expensive lesson for her, although, as a couple of others have indicated, she probably just thinks Geek Squad fixed the printer. Between whatever it cost for her to file the lawsuit, have my friend tracked down and served. He was served at a restaurant, Geek Squad fee, cost of the wrong ink tanks she bought, 3 of them, plus the cost of the correct ink tanks, 3 of them, she's probably out several $100s. She only paid $30 plus shipping for the printer she bought from my friend. For what she has spent on this stupid lawsuit, she probably could have bought at least 5 new printers, around $60, and saved herself a lot of time and embarrassment. I have to admit guys, that was an incredibly satisfying legal advice story, but either way, let's continue with the next one. And guys, a little trigger warning for the next one, because that one deals with murder and, well, ending your own life, so maybe you would not want to hear this. Either way, it is titled, "My friend who lives out of state died in a murder-suicide 2 days ago. He had no family or close friends except his dog, his only steady companion, who was also injured by a gunshot. Who should I contact to inquire about the dog and her care/status/adoption?" I am sorry if this is the wrong place to ask this. I just found out about this today and I am still very upset and shaken up and not thinking clearly. This was the only place I could think of that might know. His location is Illinois, mine is Tennessee if it matters. His dog was his absolute best friend in the world and the only steady rock he had. I spoke to him the day before the incident about me working with her and training her when I traveled to his city again in a few weeks, since I had already met her and he knew she really liked me. The only information I have about the whole thing is a few internet news articles about the death and a few posts to his Facebook page about the tragedy. One of the posts from his friends mentioned the dog being shot but being alive and expected to live by her vet care facility, but that friend also lives out of state, so I don't think she's actually involved in the care. I messaged her and asked what she knew about where/how the dog was or where she would go if she healed, but I have not gotten a message back and that was some hours ago. I want to make sure the dog is not going to be put into a shelter if she heals or put down, because she has nowhere to go. I want to find out if I am able to adopt her and bring her home to Tennessee with me. I'm learning how to train therapy dogs and I absolutely have room in my home for her if she does not have a new family that will keep her forever. I am hesitant to contact the police in this town because it is a huge metro area and they have more important things to deal with than his dog. But I have no contact information for anyone else he could have known. I want to know if you guys have any suggestions or can reassure me that it is okay to contact them and see if they can tell me anything. Would they even be allowed to tell me anything since the investigation is still ongoing? Again, I'm sorry for the rambling, I'm just trying to get information as quickly as I can because I am scared they are going to put her down if they think she has no home. Thank you so much. And people in the comments said, contact the police agency that responded to the call, the staff should be able to help you. Sorry about your friend. Someone else said, the police agency may be able to help, dogs are considered property, so the executor of his estate may be able to work with you on this. If he had no will and no close relatives or next of kin, the court can appoint a close friend, usually in state, to take care of that. And someone else said, wow, that is terrible, I'm sorry about that. The others are right about the pet being property, but there's a good chance they just had animal control take the dog to their pound/shelter if they provide medical care on site. Try contacting them and see if you can take possession. Going through the intestacy process will take a while. And I doubt anyone is going to fight hard over you taking possession of the dog in the meantime. And the next one is an update to the dog's story. I am so relieved to say that his dog is okay. She's walking around, eating, wagging her tail. Here is a new segment about Sweet Sophie's amazing progress. I started trying to contact someone after you all gave me advice on how to proceed, and it took a while, but I finally got a hold of the police in the right district. They just told me she had been taken to some animal hospital north of town, but that they knew nothing else. A friend and I spent hours on the phone trying to contact animal hospitals and emergency clinics in the area. I honestly expected the worst, but I am so happy to see that she's being well cared for and is doing so much better than I could have imagined. There has been an outpouring of support for this sweet dog and many offers to take care of her for life once she recovers enough to leave the hospital, so it looks like I myself will not be providing a home for her, but as long as she's well cared for and as happy as she can be, I cannot be one bit disappointed. Thanks for the reassurance and support you all gave. The death of my friend and the gravity of his actions are still weighing heavily on my heart and will continue to do so, but at least Sophie is getting another chance to show other people how much love she has to give. There's a fund for her care if you would like to help. I won't link it, but you can find it if you look. Thanks again. And guys, unfortunately we have already reached the end of the video. If you still enjoy r/legal advice, please don't forget to tell me in the comments. To be honest, it feels good to be back with legal advice because these stories as usual are quite interesting and just a little bit different than anything else you can read on Reddit. Either way, once again, if you haven't already, please feel free to check out my Patreon at patreon.com/ripeyoutube for weekly exclusive Reddit videos. We already have around 19 or 20 exclusive videos, so if you are interested in that, please feel free to check it out. Prices start at just $1, and for $3 per month you will get access to these videos. Either way, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.